Hello, so I welcome you all again to this lecture series of current electricity. Now, previously, we have studied about the basics of current and the three basic definitions that we study is junction, loop, and branch. Then we move ahead and studied about Kirchhoff's law. Kirchhoff's first law, that is junction law, that is summation of all the currents, algebraic sum of all the currents at a junction is 0. Then we studied about Kirchhoff's voltage law, that is summation of voltages, that is potential difference across all the resistor, plus the summation of all the EMFs in a closed loop is 0. Again, that is algebraic summation. We studied about the sign convention, that in the direction of current the potential difference is taken as negative, opposite to the direction of current the potential difference is taken as positive, and when I cross the voltage from negative terminal to positive terminal we take it as positive, and from positive terminal to negative terminal we take it as negative. We also understood the logic behind it. Then we move ahead and studied about Wheatstone bridge. We studied that how do we find the value of unknown resistances in a circuit. We studied about the condition of balancing of the bridge, that the galvanometer should show zero deflection. Again, then we studied about meter bridge, that how the unknown resistance can be found out, again using the principle of balance. And there was a meter scale and a 1 meter length of wire is there, and it is divided between Lx and Lr, and Lx is for unknown resistance of X, Lr is for known resistance of R, and then through balance condition X upon Lx equals to R upon Lr, we can find the value of X because R was known to us. In all these cases throughout we have been using the term galvanometer, and we know what is galvanometer. Galvanometer is used to measure the presence of current inside a circuit. Again, so let us see what is galvanometer. You see this thing here. So let me just take the laser. This is actually the inside setup of galvanometer, the core of the galvanometer. Here you see this is an iron core, and this rectangular coil is actually the wires mounted in a shape of a rectangular, which is also called an armature, and this is the horseshoe magnet having north pole and south pole, and this iron core is actually in between the north pole and south pole. If this is my north pole and south pole, this is the iron core here, and on the iron core a rectangular coil is mounted. Now you also know that when a current is passed through a rectangular coil, the coil deflects, and this deflection is measured with the help of this deflection is observed with the help of this pointer attached here, and this is the pointer that we see in the galvanometer. Now the larger the value of current, the larger will be the deflection of galvanometer. Okay, so let us see what does it say. It says that a galvanometer is a device used to detect weak electric currents in a circuit. So the first important point that you will see here, that it can only detect weak electric currents. That is, it has a particular range of current that it can deflect. After that, once this meter scale reaches from this 30 to this 30, okay, this 30 to this 30 or 0 to 30, suppose you see this is 0, this is 30 and this is 30, it means the maximum value is 30, okay, and if it will move this side, that is left hand side, that is anti-clockwise till 30, if the current in the circuit is anti-clockwise, it will move clockwise till 30 if the current in the circuit is clockwise direction. Now suppose it has reached to 30 and I am increasing the current, then beyond 30 it can't go. So the 30 is the maximum limit till which the galvanometer can measure the current. Now this 30 is just angular scale, the actual measurement is something like this. The galvanometer itself has a small current carrying capacity about 1 milliampere, okay, and its resistance is about 100 ohms. So till 1 milliampere it will show the deflection, and beyond 1 milliampere it won't show any deflection. Then how do we measure the current beyond 1 milliampere? This is the question. So this is where the ammeter comes into picture. Ammeter is used for measuring the higher amounts of current or higher values of current. So let us see again, when an electrical current passes through the coil, it deflects. So then an electrical current passes through this coil, it will deflect, and the deflection is proportional to the current passing through the coil. So higher the deflection, that means higher amount of current is passing through the coil, but a maximum deflection of 30 can occur. Beyond that, it won't show any deflection. So what happens if the current in the coil keeps on increasing? So if the current in the coil keeps on increasing, then the coil may heat up, and if the coil may heat up, then it may burn. So this is why it can measure only weak currents, and if the current increases, the galvanometer can get damaged. And the second thing is that if I suddenly pass a high amount of current, then this pointer from 0 will suddenly come at 30, and it will strike there, so it may break. So these are the two conditions that can cause damage to the galvanometer. Now we will see how do we use the galvanometer as an ammeter so that it can measure higher amount of currents. So galvanometer can be used as an ammeter or a voltmeter with suitable modifications. So let us see what are those modifications. So we are seeing this as galvanometer as an ammeter. So to convert a moving coil galvanometer into an ammeter, MCG, that is moving coil galvanometer, that is the coil or reflector can move. So let us see again the figure. So this is my figure. Now I want to tell you something before I move ahead. See, this is my resistance connected in with an EMF voltage source of V. Okay, so this is V, this is R. A current I is flowing in the circuit. A current I is flowing in the circuit. If I want to measure the value of I, what is the value of I? I equals to V upon R. If I know V and R, I can find out I. But suppose I don't know the value of V or I don't know the value of R, and I want to measure the current that is flowing inside the circuit, then what can I do? I will connect an ammeter here. Okay, this is an ammeter denoted by A. This is an ammeter denoted by A. So an ammeter is connected in series with the circuit, and this current that is passing through this resistance will pass through ammeter, and then ammeter will show the reading that what is the value of current. So the first thing that you note here is that ammeter has to be connected in series with the circuit. Now second thing comes into picture is that in that case, when I is passing through this resistance as well as this ammeter, then ammeter will also have some resistance, isn't it? Any conductor will have some resistance. So since ammeter is also conductor, it will have some resistance, suppose small r. Then the value of current in this case will be total resistance in the circuit now is R plus a small r. So the value of current is decreased, isn't it? Because the resistance has increased. So in ideal case, what should be the value of resistance of ammeter? Ideally this value should be 0. Ideally this value should be 0. But in practical case, this is not possible to achieve a 0 value. Okay, in practical case it is not possible to achieve a 0 value. So we make such an arrangement that a very minimal amount of current will pass through the meter, and most of the current will take a second part to pass. So in that case, two things will happen. First, the resistance will be less. Okay, the resistance will be less, and second thing is that the meter will not get damaged in case of higher currents, because very less amount of current I am passing through the meter. Okay, so this thing I want to know here. The two important things is that ammeter has to be connected in series. Ammeter has to be connected in series. Why series? Because all the currents have to pass. Okay, and it should have negligible resistance. Okay, so now since you know what is the principle of ammeter, now we can understand this moving coil galvanometer. Okay, so now you see here in the figure that is on the right of you, you see this current I is flowing through the circuit and has resistance R. Okay, now Ig is the maximum amount of current that can flow through galvanometer. it is said full deflection current. So you just note it down on the copy. It is called full deflection current, that at Ig the galvanometer will show full deflection. Now, so Ig has gone to the galvanometer, and this S is actually a shunt resistance. What is shunt resistance? Shunt resistance is for this circuit, this is a very small amount of resistance, very small amount of resistance, which is connected in parallel to the circuit. Now what happens if current is going like this, and it has two parts now, two options. It can go through this or it can go through this, and it will see that in which path I have least resistance, in which path I will have least resistance. So if the resistance of this path, that is shunt resistance, is least, then most of the current will flow through this, and very small amount of current will flow through galvanometer. Okay, this thing is clear. So the value of shunt resistance, well, galvanometer acts as an ammeter, is least. Since it is least, the maximum amount of current will flow through the shunt resistance, and a very small amount of current will flow through galvanometer. Up to this it is clear? Okay, now you see, so to convert a moving coil galvanometer into an ammeter, its effective current carrying capacity must be increased to the desired high value. You see, I said now, if galvanometer can take current up to 1 milliampere, but I want that I have to measure the current I, which is of 10 ampere. Suppose it is of 10 ampere, I want to measure it. So out of 10 ampere, suppose 1 ampere current is going to this, suppose 10 milliampere is there. Out of 10 milliampere, suppose 1 milliampere is the maximum value that galvanometer can take. So galvanometer will take 1 milliampere of current from here, and the 9 milliampere of current that is remaining will pass through this way. So what happens is that the galvanometer will know that for every 9 milliampere of current, 1 milliampere of current is passing through me. For every 9 milliampere of current that passes through this, 1 milliampere current is passing through me. Or in other sense, the galvanometer will know that for every 1 milliampere of current that is passing through me, 9 milliampere of current will have passed through this. And in that way, the galvanometer will, the reader can understand that the current that is passing through it is 10 milliampere, because for every 1 milliampere of current, 9 milliampere of current will have passed through this. So this is the setting of galvanometer that we will understand later. Okay, so now you see, its effective current capacity must be increased to the desired high value. So the current capacity we have increased. How we have increased? We have kept a resistance in the parallel of galvanometer, and the value of this resistance is very low. So most of the current will try to pass through the least resistance path, and Is is the current, that is very greater amount of I is Is will pass through this, and a small amount of I, that is Ig, will pass through galvanometer. Its effective resistance must be decreased. Now I said no, because ammeter should have very low resistance, so this whole setup is now acting as an ammeter, and it is connected in series with this resistance. So its effective resistance must be decreased. And how will its effective resistance will be decreased? We know for parallel combination, R effective equals to R1 times R2 upon R1 plus R2. Okay, now if R2 is very small, suppose S is my R2, if R2 is very small, very small, suppose it is in points, suppose it is the fraction of something, if it is the fraction of R1, that is it is 1/10 of R1, suppose, or it is 1/20 of R1, then ultimately the resistance is decreased by 1/20, isn't it? So this is why the shunt resistance of least value is connected in parallel, because it will decrease the overall resistance. Okay, so generally it is in the fraction, it is in the fraction of galvanometer resistance. So it will generally be 150 time or 130 time of galvanometer resistance is the value of shunt resistance. So ultimately the resistance will be decreased, and it must be protected from the possible damages which are likely due to the passage of an excess current. So excess current should not pass through this galvanometer. So we have arranged this shunt resistance. So the shunt will serve three purposes. First is it will decrease the effective resistance. Second is it will not allow higher current to pass through galvanometer because it will take most of the current. And third is it has increased the range of now my galvanometer because I can take more currents. So initially only 1 milliampere of current can be taken. Now I can take 10 milliampere of current, and out of 10 milliampere of current, 1 milliampere of current will pass through my galvanometer, 9 milliampere of current will pass through me, that is shunt. Okay. So use of shunt is to divert a large part of total current, increase the range of ammeter, and decrease the resistance between the points to which it is connected. We saw how it is done. Now, so let us see how do we numerically identify this thing. So shunt resistance calculation we will do. You see, Ig is the current through the galvanometer. A current I is passing from here and it will get divided between Ig and Is. So I can say I equals to Ig plus Is. Again junction rule, or it is simply observing that I is divided between only two things, Ig and Is. So I can write Is as I minus Ig. Okay, because I equals to Ig plus Is, so Is equals to I minus Ig. Now since S and G are parallel, when two things are parallel, the potential difference across them are same, because the potential difference is taken between 2 points in a circuit, and these 2 points, between these 2 points, shunt is connected and galvanometer is connected. So potential difference across shunt and potential difference across galvanometer is same. And what is potential difference? Potential difference is V equals to IR. So Ig is the current through galvanometer and G is the resistance. So G into Ig equals to S into Is, because current through shunt resistance is Is and the value of shunt resistance is S. So S into Is. Now I will put the value of Is here. So G into Ig equals to S into I minus Ig. Okay, G into Ig equals to S into I minus Ig. Now you will ask how it is acting as an ammeter. So if you know the value of shunt resistance that you have connected, if you know the value of shunt resistance that you have connected, if you know the value of galvanometer resistance that you have connected, because these things are standard things. So you know the value of galvanometer resistance, you know the value of your shunt resistance that you are connecting, and I already said that Ig is full deflection current of the galvanometer. So you know what is the full deflection current, that is when the galvanometer is fully deflected, what current can it take? Suppose it is 1 milliampere. So I know G, I know Ig, I know S, I know Ig, so I will find I. So in that way the value of current in the circuit is found out. So it will act as an ammeter. Okay, this thing is clear. And here also numerically, if numerical is asked that this amount of current is flowing and this is my full deflection galvanometer current Ig and this is the galvanometer, so what shunt resistance should I connect? Then we can find out the value of shunt resistance. So these two things, these two formulas or two things you need to remember. Okay, this first is the important thing, G into Ig equals to S into I minus Ig. Now here comes two special cases. Two special cases that we can see is, the first one is if the current I in the circuit, that is the total current, is N times the Ig, that is full deflection current of galvanometer. Because I said na, Ig is suppose 1 milliampere and I that is flowing is 10 milliampere, then I is 10 times of Ig and I want to find the shunt resistance. Then I can simply put the value of Ig and it is G, so G into Ig, and I is N times Ig, so N Ig minus G, Ig will cancel out, so S equals to G upon N minus 1. So this will give me the formula that if the suppose someone ask me that I need a shunt resistance and I have a galvanometer. Okay, I have a galvanometer which can I have a galvanometer having suppose the full deflection current of 1 milliampere or suppose 2 milliampere, and I want to measure a current of 20 milliampere. Okay, I want to measure a current of 20 milliampere, so give me a shunt resistance. So you see, you have a galvanometer of 2 ampere, you want to measure a current of 20 milliampere, so it is n times. How many times? 10 times. So you will just give him the shunt resistance by calculating the value of his galvanometer upon n minus 1. So he will tell me the reading of galvanometer as the resistance of galvanometer, and then you will calculate the resistance upon 10 minus 1, and you will give him that shunt resistance. So this is how the numerical or the practical application is done. Second special case will be, you see here, I minus Ig equals to Is. Also I can write I minus Is equals to Ig. Things are same. Okay. So since the voltage is same, again I apply the potential V Ohm's law, that potential difference across these 2 points and potential difference across these 2 points will be same since they are connected in parallel. So G into I minus Is equals to S into Is. G into Ig, you know, G into Ig, and what is Ig? Ig is I minus Is. So G into I minus Is equals to S into Is. So in the terms of Is now we are calculating. So Gi minus Gis equals to Sis. Now I am taking this on the right hand side. Sis plus Gis equals to G into I. So I can find out what fraction of current Is will flow through the shunt resistance. So Is upon I equals to G upon S upon G. So this equation gives the fraction of the total current through the shunt resistance. So obviously you see G of Is upon I equals to G upon S plus G. So this fraction of total current will flow through the shunt resistance. So it is a very high value. Obviously it will be less than I because I is my total current, but it will be very greater than Ig, almost n minus 1 times greater, generally n minus 1 times greater than Ig. Okay, so this was my galvanometer. I hope there is no confusion, and we will, at the end of the lecture, I will give you one video of the numericals on Wheatstone bridge and galvanometer and potentiometer, so don't worry about that. But this is the gist, basic, and this thing is important. G into Ig equals to S into I minus Ig. Only you remember this, and every numerical will be done on their own. Now we will move ahead and see our last topic of the lecture, that is potentiometer. Okay, so now we will study about potentiometer. Okay, so before we study our potentiometers, the way we studied about ammeter, we will have to know about voltmeter. Now suppose this is the resistance, a current I is flowing. I want to measure the resistance across this resistor. So I have to measure the resistance between point A and point B. I have to measure the voltage potential difference across point A and point B if I want to measure the potential difference across that resistor. Now to measure the potential difference, see what is the formula of potential difference? V equals to IR. Okay, so to measure the potential difference, I will have to attach a voltmeter here. So voltmeter has to be attached in parallel because I want to see the potential difference across these 2 points. Okay, this thing is clear. So voltmeter has to be attached in parallel because I want to measure the potential difference between that 2 points. So across that 2 points I will attach the voltmeter. Now you see, if I am attaching the voltmeter here, then some amount of current will obviously pass through this, and the rest amount of current, I minus small I, will pass through the resistance. So now the voltage will be what across the resistance? I minus I into R. So it is not absolutely correct because the actual resistance, if there was no voltmeter, will be IR, but I want to find the voltage, so I will connect the voltmeter. Now when I connect the voltmeter, the actual voltage is decreased by what amount? I minus I into R. So minus small IR amount, it is reduced. So what should be the ideal case? The ideal case should be that there should be no current across this voltmeter. Now how is it possible that there should be no current across this voltmeter? Because if there is no current, then it will not detect, it will not show any reading. So it is ideally not possible, we can see. So ideally not possible to have I equals to 0, and when I equals to 0, I say it means the resistance of the voltmeter shall be infinity. Only the when the resistance is infinity, it won't allow any current, no. So that means the resistance of the circuit or the voltmeter should be infinite, so that it don't allow any current to pass through it. But ideally it is not possible, and there comes then potentiometer. In potentiometer it is possible, it is plausible that the current through the circuit will be zero, but at the same time you can measure the potential difference. So how is it possible? Let us see. It is very interesting to know that even at zero current, mathematically you will be able to find out the potential difference. Now there are two kinds of wires. First let me tell you. Okay, so if I am telling you the wire, so let me just take two lines of different colors. So this is my conducting wire, okay, and this is my resistance wire. There are two kinds of wires. So in a conducting wire, when current flows, there is no obstruction to current. Current will not have any obstruction, okay, and if the current will not have any obstruction, there won't be any drop of potential, because I don't have to do any extra work to move ahead, so my potential won't drop. But in a resisting wire, at every instant there is a drop of potential, and that is if I am starting from here and I have a potential of V. When I come here, some amount of potential is lost. Again I come here, some amount of potential is lost. Again I come here, some amount of potential is lost, and my final potential when I reach at the end becomes 0. Okay, so there is a definite gradient of potential. If the length of the wire is L, so this gradient is denoted by, suppose, rho. If not rho, let us suppose it is denoted by K, and this gradient is what? Tan of, suppose this is x, then tan x, and tan x is what? Perpendicular upon base, and this base is of length L, and this perpendicular is of volt V. So this gradient will be V upon L. Okay, so there is a drop of potential gradually, and a potential gradient is observed, and this gradient is called as potential gradient, and its value is V upon L. Okay, provided the cross section of wire is same. Okay, so there are two kinds of wire. Conducting wire, there is no drop of potential. Resisting wire, there will be drop of potential at every point, because you have to do your work, and when you do your work, your potential will keep on decreasing, and a point will come where you won't be able to do more work. So in the same way, current, the potential is dropping, and when the potential has dropped to 0, then the current won't flow further. So this potential gradient is given by V upon L. Okay, so this point you understood. Now we will move ahead to see what is happening in the potentiometer. This is my potentiometer circuit. Okay, this is an EMF source, this is the internal resistance of the EMF. This from A to B is a long wire, okay, very long wire, the same resisting wire, which has a potential drop, is connected, and a point C is taken on the wire with a length small l. Okay, this thing you have to make it clear. The circuit is nothing, this is not a potentiometer, that is a meter will be connected. No, this is just the simple circuit, and it is called potentiometer. Okay, the circuit is called potentiometer because it is measuring something, that is why it is called as meter. So what it is measuring? It is measuring the potential difference or the voltage or the EMF. So it is called as potentiometer. Now we will see how it is working. So potentiometer is a device which does not draw any current from the circuit. It acts as an ideal voltmeter. See, it does not draw any current from the circuit, and hence it acts as an ideal voltmeter. What is ideal voltmeter? zero current. So potentiometer device which does not draw any current from the circuit. Okay, and it is used for accurate measurement of potential difference because it will not draw any current, and we understood how. So it will measure accurate value of potential difference. Now let us see what happens next. So what is the principle of potentiometer? We will see. Now you see, this was the circuit. When the circuit is switched on, current I passes through the wire. So a current I will pass through this wire. Okay. So current through AB I can write as this wire. What will be the current? I can write as I equals to E upon capital R plus a small r. What is capital R? Capital R will be the resistance of the wire. Okay, because it is a resistive wire, it will have some resistance. R equals to rho L upon a, we know, no? So if it is a length, if it is a cross section, it has a resistivity. So R is equals to rho L upon a is applied here, and I equals to E upon R plus R, because this is a small r and now this is capital R total. So these are in series, so it is added. I equals to E upon R plus R, coming from Ohm's law. Okay. Now potential difference across AB is, what is potential difference across AB? Potential difference across AB, V equals to IR. So across AB, what is the current flowing? This current I equals to E upon R plus R is flowing. And what is the resistance of this wire AB? Capital R. So I into R, I can write E upon R plus R into R. Nothing special science is here. Simply I calculated the current first throughout the whole circuit, and then I found out the potential difference across this wire AB, and it is I into R. So E upon R plus R into R. Okay, this is simple. Now, so this is the current through this length of wire, that is total L length of wire. Therefore, the potential difference per unit length of the wire is, if I am finding out this potential difference is throughout the length of the wire. Okay, so per unit length means, okay, unitary method is there. Okay, so for L unit, unitary method, you know, no? Unitary method says that for L length of wire, we have the value of potential as epsilon R upon, for L length potential difference was epsilon R upon a small r plus capital R. So for 1 unit of length, per unit of length, it means 1 unit of length, what will we have? Epsilon R upon R plus, you are understanding this now? R plus R, and by we will do L and multiply by 1. So by L, so it will come in multiplication here. Okay, so this denominator will come here and it will become ER upon L into R plus R. So therefore the potential difference per unit length of the wire, per unit means 1, I will divide the total length. So VAB upon L will be epsilon R upon L into R plus R. Per unit means 1 unit of length. Okay, so this. Now you see, epsilon is my, suppose, a standard voltage, a standard battery, so it will remain same. Again, if the length of the wire is made constant, then R will also be same if the cross section is constant. A small r is same because it is the internal resistance of the circuit of the battery, and if I have a standard battery, its internal resistance will also be same. Then as long as these things remain constant, VAB upon L will remain constant, isn't it? That is, potential difference per unit length will remain constant. Then I can call it as a constant which will be denoted by K, and I will call it as potential gradient. So what potential gradient I told you earlier, this is the same potential gradient. It is VAB upon L. I told you, no, V upon L. So this is the same potential gradient, and we understood how it is coming. So it is VAB upon L is my potential gradient, and VAB upon L equals to K, I say, for the time being. So I say that K equals to V upon L. Okay, K equals to V upon L, and V upon L equals to K. This is my K. So if I want to find the V, what will be my V? K times L. So for capital L length of wire, V is K times L. For another length of wire, suppose a small l, V equals to K times a small l. Now I can change this L and I will find out the potential difference across any length of wire. Isn't it? This is clear. So I am erasing it. Okay, I will move to so in the same slide I have something to show you. So now consider point C on the wire at distance a small l from point A. At distance a small l from point A, there is point C in the circuit. At this distance a small l from point A, there is point C on the circuit. So consider point C on the wire, distance a small l from point A as shown in the figure. The potential difference between A and C is what now? K times small l, because VAB is K times L. So VAC is K times a small l. The way I did, I showed you just now, no? VAB upon L equals to K, so VAC equals to K times a small l. So VAC will directly proportional to a small l. So now the voltage potential difference is directly proportional to the length of the wire. If I have the standard length, if I have standardized it, and if I have standardized it with the EMF, the internal resistance, and the capital L length of the potentiometer wire, then I can find any length through that potential gradient, because I know the potential gradient is a constant and it is given by V upon L. So for a small l length of the wire or for any length of the wire, I will just multiply that gradient with that length. It is clear? Okay. So thus the potential difference between 2 points on the wire is directly proportional to the length of the wire between them, provided the wire is of uniform cross section and the current through the wire is the same and temperature of the wire remains constant. So this is the constant. We know that cross section remains constant, temperature remains constant. So in that case this thing will apply, that is potential gradient will remain constant and potential difference will be proportional to the length of that section. Okay, so now we will see how do we measure the EMF by using this principle. Okay, the principle you understood now. E equals to directly proportional to L. So use a potentiometer. Okay, so this thing, use a potentiometer, we will study in next lecture, because the portion of the video will become large and it will not be able to transfer. So I am closing it here.